Hello and welcome to everything that you wanted to know about self-leadership but were afraid to ask. In this episode, I'm going to talk about stacking. What do I mean by stacking? You may be asking yourself. Good question. Stacking is something that I've borrowed from a dog trainer. And yet I'm going to talk about people. No doubt this could apply to dogs, and in fact stacking in terms of dog behaviour could definitely apply to humans. Let me begin then by talking about what this dog trainer meant. She was telling me about stacking. What she was saying was that if you have a dog which is a little bit nervous, and therefore that can mean that the set point to trigger could be lower than other animals, other dogs. But also it could mean that generally there was a level of threshold anxiety, free floating anxiety. So we then look at this dog, and the dog, which may be easily triggered, hears a dog barking in the distance. And so alertness, anxiety, maybe a little bit of fear goes up. And then maybe 15 minutes goes by. But that dog, this particular dog, may not have gone down to that normal level of anxiety. Maybe it's still slightly raised. And then perhaps this dog sees a dog in the distance walking by. So boom, raised again. We've stacked upwards. And then maybe a cat jumps on a wall nearby, or maybe there's another bark which is closer. Maybe a stranger appears. You get the idea pretty quickly, pretty soon. This dog's anxiety level is sky high, and the dog is finding it difficult to think properly. It's very much on perhaps seeking an escape route. Maybe seeking to find who the perpetrator is, and so on. The idea of stacking, I think, is an important one, that we can start off at one level, and then for us, anxiety, in this example, can increase. It could increase, of course, and include fear. It could increase to the point of terror. But that, of course, can also happen in humans. And I want to borrow the idea, not to talk about that level of anxiety going up in terms of humans, because we've probably all experienced it, but this idea of more than one thing happening that can cause us an issue. And instead of things being stacked upon, I'm going to talk about things being removed. I'm going to talk about those things that I have called in the past the protective factors, like good friends, a job that is satisfying, and so on. Because what I want to draw your attention to, and it is something that I don't hear people talk about that often in the area of well-being, mental health, and that is that when one thing is removed from our lives, that can be stressful enough. It can be really difficult. That may mean that we have to seek help at that point. So let's say we're really lonely because a friend group has been removed, dissipated for whatever reason, or a best friend has gone away. You can think about that in different ways. So that support has disappeared. And so if you imagine that we have, and I've talked about this before, the inclement weather above us, the storms that happen. And we have these things that protect us that we should think about having around us. What if they're removed? And what if, just like the stacking raised the anxiety level for the dog, that the removal of things causes us to be exposed, causes us to become more anxious, causes us to become fearful, causes us to become perhaps hypervigilant. And this is what I want to draw your attention to. Have a think about your life. Have a think about the things that are happening. Have a think about what maybe has been removed. So friends or best friend, perhaps it's family. Has there been a change there? Has the protection diminished? Also, have a think about a job. If that job has disappeared or changed radically, or the boss is different but not in a good way, or the work pattern has been altered and it doesn't suit you, or maybe it's gone on to shifts or whatever, that element of enjoyment or at least neutrality that you had in your life is gone, and it's been replaced by more stress. So the friends go, the family goes, the job changes, or the job goes itself. And remember that for many people, the sense of meaning and purpose, or at least in part, can be attached to that job. And if that job disappears, then what have we got? We're losing a peer group. We're losing potentially a reason to get up in the morning. We're losing potentially, therefore, a sense of purpose, and maybe also attached to that meaning. Not always, but it can be. Said before, purpose and meaning, very, very close cousins. So what else are things that can go wrong? Relationship challenges. That can mean all sorts of different things. So let's just say that. A relationship challenge, a serious relationship challenge. What else may happen? Well, maybe we have someone that we have to care for. And that is a big thing. It's an honor to do such a thing, but there's no doubt it's also a big strain. So I'm not going to overload us with examples, because I want you to get the idea, the principle of this more than anything else. If you consider those things that were stacked above you like many layers, and each one was capable of protecting you to a degree from that storm, that psychological storm, whatever's going on in your life, whatever changes are happening, then if those things are removed one by one, then we can become dreadfully exposed to the environment. Now, you may have already spotted this, but the thing that is removed can be linked to the storm. So let's say that the job changes or alters. It's a bad boss. It's a toxic environment. The hours are awful. So that job that gave you meaning, purpose, camaraderie, and perhaps laughter and connection, which is also essential for most of us, that disappears. And above you, the storm is the toxic boss, the group at work who aren't a team anymore, the horrible hours that disrupt your sleep. So you're taking something away and either creating this storm or adding to a storm that already exists. And then, if other things are taken away, the group of friends who you can laugh about things with normally, they go. So the laughter, the ability to look at things differently, to perhaps reframe a situation, that goes. At the same time, or close by, relatively, a few months, maybe a year, that disappears, along with the job or the good job. And you see that we would become much, much more vulnerable. And the storm could still be the job, the change in the job, but the protective bit of it has gone, the camaraderie, and also the friendship with those people or that best friend that we could chat things through with. And pretty quickly, we can get exposed to the point where we must be talking to someone. We really need to reach out and get some help. Everyone is different, of course, but let's just take it to the extreme. We have the job, we have the friend group going, we have maybe a family issue, maybe family members have departed, and then we have a relationship issue, and then we're caring. And I would say that that is not a long-term viable solution and situation. You may be thinking, well, okay, what would you do? Well, everyone is unique and every situation is unique. But if it were me, I would look to find things that helped support me physically and psychologically. So if one group of friends had gone, where can I meet others? If I've lost the connection at work, can I get another job? If not, where can I get that connection? Maybe it's something to do with a hobby, a group, that sense of belonging. So friend or friends, where can we find them? Group, sense of belonging. Maybe a hobby also, or it could include a sport, can give us a sense of that purpose, that meaning in our lives. And then, can we get help? Caring, let's say. But to attempt to care, again to use that as an example, and not have those other things in our lives is going to get really tough. As I've said before, these are simply examples, but let's just say we're caring, which is known to be extremely rewarding, but also challenging, exhausting. So we're doing that. We want to do that as best we can. And yet we have a job change, and that's creating extra stress. And that's raising that anxiety level and so on. And if those other things go, we have got to find ways to help protect ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to get crushed. I don't mean that to sound all doom and gloom. Quite the reverse. I'd ask you to think about it. Where are you in your life right now? Where are those things that help protect you, that provide you with a route towards more resilience, let's say, to be more robust psychologically? Have there been any movements? Have there been any movements with things changing and being taken away? And if so, should you really be concentrating on finding something to take the place, particularly so if another movement has been to put an extra stressor in? As I say, the job on one level, but in my other example, to be in some sort of caring role. I hope that makes sense, and I hope it's food for thought. I think it's important to consider. I've seen some things like this creep up on me and other people, and if you don't replace those things, it can be a very stressful time indeed. For the moment, from me, bye for now.